Gentlemen, welcome to Talent Week.
Well, thanks.
Here you go, Gary.
Well, I'm doing really well today. Particularly as I feel, as I said off air, that this seems like a panel from the Eurovision or one of these World Cup draws, you know, because we're all over the world here. We've got Bulgaria, Brazil, and Dublin, I guess, covered in this call. So let's start in Bulgaria, will we? And
say so.
Yeah, well, Chris, how do you end up getting on this call apart from Paddy telling you be on a call?
Well, I suppose working in LPI, like our team, there is a lot of different people here from different countries, as we are LPI Group, Lighting Protection International, and Paddy suggested that there was a talent month going on in Hosting Island. So we just raised a hand, and here I end up on this call with you, Gary, and the rest of my teammates.
I'm so delighted because, you know, these are the things that you need to put your hand up for, because, you know, the genuine authenticity of the people who work in this industry is often forgotten about. And everybody thinks that it's run by cyborgs and people who actually are algorithms. So I thank you for that. So you're Bulgaria, you're based in Dublin. Tell us what the connection is. How do you end up working in Dublin?
Well, long ago, obviously, maybe 15 years ago, I decided that I needed to change in my life. So a member of my family had already moved to Dublin a few months before that. So they've said, like, it's really nice here. And again, I raised my hand and I was like, okay, I'm up for it. I'll try to challenge myself and see how it goes. So that's how I ended up in Dublin. And I thought, like, I'll be here for a couple of months, maybe a year or two, you know, like just see how it is, like practice my English, because I used to study English in school, but never had the practical side of it. So when I ended up here, like, I kind of like met a lot of people from different countries, like I became friends with, and then I started enjoying myself being here more than I actually was when I was back in Bulgaria. And I said, like, okay, this is my place to live in. And then 15 years later, I'm still here. And then on this call with Garry and Eoin and Diego.
Well, 15 years ago, you were only about 5 years old. Did you sort of come over on your own, or
I wouldn't be able to be 5 years old. Would be about 18, 19. Would be about 19, yeah, when I moved here.
Wow.
19.
So, Eoin, we'll bring you in. Have you got an exotic story to tell?
I don't think so, Gary. To get on this call today, I must have pulled the short straw on anyway. Paddy kind of lined a few of them out, and I was unfortunately the one who pulled the smallest one. But no, I'm Dublin born and reared. Live out in Blanchetown, Clonsilla, and went to college in DIT, did electrical engineering. From there, came out in 2009, 2010. It wasn't a great time in Ireland, so especially for the country. So packed my bags and headed off to Canada for a while. Enjoyed playing GAA. Just had the crack out there, to be honest. Enjoyed it. And came back.
They say about Canada is it might be in North America, but it's very different to United States of America. Did you find that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I did now, to be honest. Like, and a lot of people at the time are kind of going for America and Australia. Australia was one of the biggest places a lot of Irish were kind of moving on to, so I kind of wanted something different, and headed for Toronto. Now it was brilliant for outdoor sports, cycling, snowboarding, everything like that. So yeah, like, and I encourage people. At the time I wasn't too sure of traveling, but it was the best thing I ever did, now, to be honest. It
gives you great context, doesn't it? It gives you great context then for when you do have an opportunity to come back, when people are talking about, well, things are better or they're greener or they're worse somewhere else. It makes you stop a little bit, doesn't it? And just say, well, hold on, let me do my own research.
I think, like, a big thing was for me to realize how powerful the Irish passport is abroad as well. Like, you can go into any kind of pub, any scenery and make conversation. People will hear the Irish accent and get talking to you straight away, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing what that pint of Guinness has done.
Yeah.
There's a few great jokes, but this is a family show, so we won't get into them just yet, right? Yeah. Diego.
Yes.
Bring us down to South America.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
I would say I'll start with try and get a little bit of summary of the whole story. So it begins for me, I think, in 2016 when I got my degree in electrical engineering as well. So graduated in electrical engineering. And in Brazil, it's a big thing if you're aiming for like big companies and multinationals to have English, to speak English, speak your second language, English preferable. So then, like back then, I found myself, I didn't have like a family, I didn't have like wife and kids, and I wasn't engaged in a job yet. So I said, why not? That should be about the right time to do it, you know. So I decided to go abroad and kind of trying to learn the language. And that was when I came across Ireland. So I decided to come here, spend 8 months, what was in the beginning. So the plan was, okay, go there, 8 months, English done. It was really naive actually, because they can actually like, you know, learn a language that fast. So I came here actually at the beginning, I needed to find some job that wouldn't require a certain level in English to be working, which found working in a restaurant in the kitchen. So I worked about 1 year, between 1.5 years and 2 years as a kitchen porter, washing dishes, and then as a chef. And then 8 months came to a year, turned to a year, and then 1.5 years. And when I was about to go back to Brazil for good, definitely, I was actually settled to go back to Brazil. I never thought of staying here. Like my whole mindset throughout the whole process while I was doing the kind of studying the language was, I'm here just to learn the language and then go back home. So when I was about to go back, was like 4 months. I said, well, wait a second, why not? You know, why not to try and get a job actually in the engineering sector, in the engineering area. So that's when I started applying for jobs, and LPI came across my CV, got an interview with them. Was a little bit like there was a lot of barriers I need to overcome that time, because my English wasn't still that kind of English, you know. So I had a lot of limits, even to myself. Like it kind of prevents you a lot of being yourself, you know, when you are not confident in your language, your communication. Communication is key, you know. Even more in engineering world, you need to be able to communicate yourself. But in this interview, they were pretty good with me, you know. They're pretty welcoming, let's say. So
they thought you'd be great for their soccer team. They needed a center forward. They were lacking.
Well, little did they know that I'm really bad at football.
No. It's a bit like all these different fallacies. Irish are meant to be chronic alcoholics, and yet people come to Ireland and they go, where are they all? I don't see them. Yeah. It's like when you say you're Brazilian, oh, I played on the Americana, the beach.
That lad must know some football. Like, you need to.
Yeah.
Anyway, the interview was kind of good. So I managed to get my message across, you know, to communicate, even though my skills wasn't that good, English skills. So I managed to get this job with LPI and be working ever since. We've been working here ever since. So throughout over the years, we got really specialized and we became reference in data center, everything like potential for data center. So that's how. And then I got invited to this meeting. So that's why.
There you go.
There's no going back now, Diego.
No going back now.
Listen, this is only a little chat. There's only 700 million people potentially going to see it on LinkedIn. So it'll be absolutely fine. But I just want to go back to yourself. What's extraordinary, and we have to thank every day the people who learn and speak English, because we're not great, right, at learning other people's languages. So we thank them every day, right? Are you there?
Yeah. Garry, I'd find it very hard to go into a different country again. Like LPI as a company, we're in 11 different countries, and even going into France, I find it very hard to learn the language. And even Chris and Diego there, it's a task. It's a credit to yourself to come to a different country and have to speak someone else's language. I'd imagine it helps coming in and having no other option. Like you said, Diego, going into a kitchen, I'd say that was very hard for you at the start, and there's no other option, but you have to learn, you know. But it's a credit to you lads, and look, like your English is perfect now.
So we move
have
on.
So many great mentors around us. So
That's what
you have to say that.
country accent.
Don't worry. You have to say certain things. All right, yeah, but we So when we look at sort of an engineering company in a technical space, which is data centers, what's the common binding mechanism? Obviously English, but teamwork comes up regularly, a lot, Chris. We hear about teamwork, and yet engineering in its truest sense, you're an engineer. It's not really, doesn't give you pictures of teams all working together. But if you don't work as a team, you're not much good to any company. Would that be fair, or is that hard?
That's totally fair, to be honest, because like if there is no team, there wouldn't be a company. The company wouldn't succeed and wouldn't improve in any way, because like the team is keeping it together to move forward and to achieve great things. So,
and do you find that we've got three different backgrounds on this particular call with different upbringings and different terms of reference and all the rest? That has to help in diversity of thought, diversity of context. Because if we're all from Dublin, we all think like Dubs, you know. We don't think that there's anybody plays Gaelic football better than us until Kerry goes and wins the All-Ireland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that help you when you go then and you're on a project with a team in Odense or in Switzerland or in Sweden, that you know what it's like to go to a geographic location, and it helps then you bring other team players on board? Is that the whole gist?
It is actually. It's very challenging, but like having people from so many different backgrounds, they have different opinions and different vision of the project itself or the work altogether. So when we come together, we aim to do better, you know. So,
and like, what is, you know, I go back to Eoin for a second. On a lot of the chats that I've been having, it's quite extraordinary where actually academic accreditations is one thing, but application to the work and being able to actually apply yourself is probably more important now than ever. Is that, are you witness to that? You said you were an electrical engineer. Is that what you do day to day?
No, well, my role has kind of changed, but I suppose just to go back to your first question, I think, like, again, a company like this traveling through Europe globally, education by traveling is a massive experience for people, and it's going to see how different cultures do different things on construction sites, and you learn, like, again, it's a great way of learning different techniques on site and how people like deliver different projects and with different skills. The DC kind of industry is all innovative, it's always changing. We look at, like, again, companies that sell in kind of fixing stuff like that, they're always trying to innovate as well. So it's great to see quicker and faster ways of doing things. And again, not being Irish can bring that to the table. You have to go into different industries and countries to learn about how to excel yourself and how to excel ourselves as a company. We need to learn off other companies as well, you know. So yeah, kind of very beneficial to travel with work as well, you know.
So Diego, I guess you're pitching for a lot of Portuguese work so that you can go back to your native language, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, when you start working, like you never, it's difficult to shift your mind to see, look, now I like it here, you know. So kind of like you shift your mind. It takes a while for shifting your mind to say, that's actually okay, you know. That's actually, you can actually have a second house, second home. Even though you miss a lot of like stuff back home, but like when you start dealing with the stuff that Shane and Chris was mentioning, it's pretty fulfilling. Like it's pretty much like kind of, you can like kind of swap home and family and work in your country with your culture for another thing else, but you can have something else that might be similar, might kind of fulfill your feelings a different way, you know. So working data center, working Ireland is already like that, because as they both mentioned, like it's a lot of mix of cultures and seeing people from different backgrounds and learning, like you learn a lot. I think there's no like more satisfying thing than learning. Learning new
Yeah.
things is always growing yourself. And when you go to the data center business, it's even kind of doubled up. Like it's Irish people working data centers, and then you can see even more backgrounds, even more people mix, even more like subjects and people from different backgrounds, because data centers, it's massive, so involves lots of like all sorts of backgrounds and concept and engineering backgrounds and all. So that's magic,
We must be, our propaganda must be working, because when you listen to Irish people, they don't always say as nice of things about Ireland as you have. So next government you might be head of PR for the next government.
I might put my name forward that.
Sure, yeah. Unfortunately, you'll have to become a politician, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's the whole other story.
I know. Chris, I'm going to go back to you for a second. This is going to be a great question, I hope. You're 16 or 17 or whatever the age you are when you do your final exams in Bulgaria.
Right.
You're going back to have a chat with that fella, that young boy. And what would you like to tell him?
I'd like to tell him, just, like whatever you decide, go for it and don't change anything about it. Like, because I'm very happy that I took this decision that I made back then and I ended up here. So I'll just tell him the same thing. Whatever you think, don't change it. Just go for it.
Owen, same question to yourself.
Yeah, I think no regrets. You have to try things out. As I said earlier, traveling, it's a question that I had in my head to do it or not. And one of the best things I ever did. So I think you have a path and follow it. And look, sometimes it derails itself and you just need to work to get it back on and keep going straight, But I think you have to go for what you want, and you're going to make mistakes in life. It's always going to happen,
Isn't that? I was just going to say that. I guess I'm from a different generation than all of you, but failure and mistakes were frowned upon.
But that's how we learn as well.
Well, that's just the wonderful thing about all of the discussions that I'm having on these chats, is that failure is just an opportunity to learn. And you lads and some of the other interviewees, it comes across, and that's so. Therefore, you don't want to fail. It's not, you don't set out to fail. You don't set out to make things. But if you do, then you won't make the same mistake the next time, and you learn from it. It seems to be a different. Whereas we were so stymied in many respects. We were an architect. We were an engineer. We were that. And you didn't even express yourself outside of your lane or your box. And I guess that's, Diego, that's a question that I'd have for yourself, is that you're now a qualified electrical engineer, I think you said. And yet, if I ask you what you're doing, I'd say most of the work you're doing is with anything but electrical engineer. It has a sprinkling of it. It's a sort of much broader aspects of it. And I think that's what we'd like to tell ourselves when we're younger as well. Just because you're good at maths doesn't mean you're actually going to be a good engineer. Because, because engineer is much broader, isn't it, than just the maths and the science.
And I like thinking that engineering is actually just gives you the skill and the ability of fixing things, and learning things. So you're just that kind of person that are malleable. You can do whatever you want to do because your brain is developed. Of course, in any other background as well, but like engineering, you're just trained to fix stuff and to be malleable. So you need to suit something. So you're kind of, it's mind blowing that the options that you have after getting to the engineering world. Anything you could do, you could do. Like I'm actually not doing half of the stuff I thought I was going to be doing when I actually got a job in engineering, design, the think of designing, all the maths and everything. But today I'm actually over the commercial part, the estimating part of the job. Even though I use every day I need to use a lot of my knowledge to engineering, a lot of knowledge to analyze documentation and see what's the best and comprehensive system that the client would need and all that kind of stuff. So the engineering, I'm still using it, but it's amazing that the way you as you said, you don't need to be stuck to that stuff, And just one point on that, what Eoin was mentioning, Chris, the question, the previous question, is just that the way we settle our minds to do it. I'm going to be an engineer, and then you just kind of start that. That's why I said when I got my degree, I said I'm going to kind of go abroad now and learn English before I get engaged with the job, because after getting engaged, it's really hard to do a changing. It's really hard to kind of change your mind, and I think that's what people should not be afraid of, because that was a big change for me. You know, leaving my family in the beginning hurts. At the beginning, hurt a lot. Yeah. And then, as I said, my mind was to go back, but then you start learning that I'm actually fine. I remember going back home and talk to my mom. I said, look, I really miss being here, but you know well that I'm really happy right now. So like that just happened because of the choice I took of like changing my whole life. And I wasn't afraid of that, you know.
I'm writing down the email address here of the Oireachtas. You're definitely going to get the PR. You're definitely getting the PR job for the department of somewhere, right? You know. But so it's been short, sharp, and really interesting. Is there anything else that we've missed? I mean, one of the things that always amazes me about these interviews is the consistency of purpose that people have now in businesses. You know, this seems to be a good, maybe you're doing it for show, but there seems to be a good synergy between all of you and your colleagues as to what you're trying to do, the purpose of what you're doing. And whilst LPI is an engineering company doing light and protection, it's very broad, very vast, a lot of geographic locations. That's what you do, but it's not really why you do it. Why you do it.
Like, I suppose, like, Garry, to go back to what you said earlier, and Chris talked about it as well, it's like, I have a sporting background, but it's to be a team. It's to see the rewards on a completion of a project, of a good project. And again, look, sometimes we don't always win in sports, sometimes we don't always win in construction in a company, but learn from our mistakes, and hopefully the next project would be more successful for us.
Isn't that the truth? We all, at 8 years old, we all wanted to be the centre forward, scoring all the goals, and then we realise at 14 we'll just have to be left full because that's the only way we can get a game.
And you get older and they have to carry you along.
And you get older and you end up actually just cleaning the jerseys, but you want to be involved in the camaraderie and the fun. So listen, this has been great. Chris, Diego, Eoin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Garry.
It's been a great bit of
Garry.
No, absolutely. And very best of luck with your careers. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Garry.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Garry, thank you.